2,500 crore turnover in the second year itself. Auto stocks turn anxious as most components trade lower. SEBI Chief Madhavi Puri Butch speaks on rapid increase in thematic funds. She points at the advantage of perverse incentives under new fund offers as a key reason for the rise. Says they are open to suggestions to address the issue further. Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says mother of all deals to be finalized with US, says the bilateral deal will provide huge opportunities for Indians, Americans to complement each other's strengths in a turbulent world. A day after US President Donald Trump's recent allegation that American aid funds were being used to interfere in India's electoral process, MEA says it's deeply concerning and that relevant departments and agencies are looking into the same matter. Benchmark indices end in the red today, extending their losing streak to a third week. Mid-cap and small-cap snapped two-day gaining streak. The decline was driven by losses in financial and automobile stocks, while lingering concerns over US tariffs continue to dampen investor sentiment. McDonald's India eyes more profit from coffee. The fast food chain outlines aggressive expansion plan for its coffee chain, McCafe. 3 buses explode south of Israel. Police say the attack could be suspected terror attack. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu orders the military to carry out an intensive operation against centers of terrorism. Good afternoon. You're watching Profit 360 and I'm Malika Mishra. And let's begin with our top focus of the day. Will India modify its new EV policy? That's what sources are exclusively telling NDTV Profit, that in a probable bid to attract the likes of Tesla, the tweaked EV policy may mandate car makers to now show a turnover of 2,500 crore rupees in the second year itself. My colleague Shrimi Chaudhary is joining us with more. Shrimi, this is happening at a time when Tesla has set its sights on India, not just for retail, but to hire more talent. Give us more of whatever you're gathering on this information.
Yeah, so the new EV policy, which requires the fresh capital infusion of 4,150 crore to avail the concessional duty of 15% tariff against the 110% tariff at this point of time, could see some modification. Government is working on the final guidelines and could be notified next month, that is in March. Government sources tells us that, companies, EV makers may be mandated to have a revenue target of 2,500 crore by second year itself from the date of setting up the manufacturing unit. The draft policy, which was announced last year, already mandated 5,000 crore of revenue by fourth year and 7,500 crore of revenue by fifth year. So this is going to be the additional requirement. Other than that, there's some caveat is also be the part of the new EV policy, which include that no past investment will be considered under the new scheme. Land building costs would not be the part of fresh infusion, and you will see some changes in terms of EV infrastructure. So 5% of the total infusion could be considered, as a part of the total investment coming from the EV makers. So 2 to 3 EV makers already sort of showed interest in this scheme. However, there's no commitment so far came. So once the scheme will be notified, government will invite application, and 2 to 3 months of the timeline will go for the approval, and post that they will start importing under the scheme criteria. So this is coming at a time where, one of the key beneficiary, Tesla, of the scheme is, announcing its, entry in the Indian market. So this is going to be, beneficial for this, for them. And, we are also getting indication that government is wanting this scheme to be in place, and that's why we will see some progress next month itself.
Following Profit's exclusive on EV policy tweaks, all auto stocks tanked today. The Mahindra & Mahindra stock crashed 6%. But Group's CEO and Managing Director Anish Shah, in a conversation earlier this week at NDTV Profit Conclave, said that he was confident of competing with Tesla. Listen in.
But that's exactly the question that was there 25 years ago when various deep-pocketed global players came into India and Mahindra was written off as dead, saying you're not going to be able to compete with them. Right? That's happened on multiple occasions. Today, we have the products that speak for themselves. And in fact, we went to the extent where at our launch, at our test center in Chennai, we actually had some of the best vehicles in the world there along with our vehicles, and we invited the folks at the launch to drive all of them. And our vehicles stood up extremely well against some of the best vehicles, some of which were priced 3 times or 4 times our vehicle as well. So that confidence today comes from the people we have, from what they've done, from what they've developed. And therefore, we feel fairly good about the fact that we can compete with various folks.
The much anticipated bilateral trade agreement between India and the United States will be the mother of all deals, said Union Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal, addressing a summit in Kerala. The minister said India will soon start discussing a strong and powerful bilateral trade deal with the US, providing huge opportunities for both Indians and Americans while complementing each other's strengths in a turbulent economic world. Listen in.
We'll soon start discussing with the Trump administration in the United States of America a strong, powerful economic engagement and a bilateral trade deal, which will be the mother of all deals, providing huge opportunities for Indians and Americans to work together to complement each other's strengths in this very turbulent world. And this is the time that I would urge investors from across the world not to miss the bus, not to miss the boat, as I would say it in Kerala, because those who miss the boat may be left at the shore, while others will sail along with the tailwinds of growth, progress and prosperity that India offers.
My colleague Rishabh now is joining us. Rishabh, just a few days ago, the Union Minister told us at NDTV Profit Conclave that India and US will work together to make import and export easier between both the countries, even saying that there isn't anything concrete to worry regarding tariffs. So could this possibly be a deal for negotiating or say bargaining power that India will have going forward?
Right. So all of this stems from the Prime Minister's visit to Washington, where he met Elon Musk, he met the President Donald Trump, and a major headline that came out of that was, of course, the initiation of the bilateral trade agreement. Remember, India does not have a free trade agreement with the US, unlike many other countries that it still holds either a CEPA, which is a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, or other sorts of trade deals. But with the US, which is India's largest trading partner, we have, and also why US is important is because we have a trade surplus with the US. So India and the US, very, very crucial trading partners, and now a formal bilateral trade agreement coming through after the premiers of the two nations met. So the big headline from that was that trade will now go up to about $500 billion in the next 5 years. The current trade only stands at about $125 billion. So we're seeing a quadrupling of that number. So that is the major trigger that we are seeing coming, and why we're talking about these negotiations now.
Got it. Thank you so much for bringing us that perspective, Rishabh. Now, speaking at an event hosted by the Association of Mutual Funds of India, Madhavi Puri-Butch, the chairperson of SEBI, commented on the rapid escalation of thematic funds and why they have no cap on them. The chairperson said that when SEBI comes across such trends, they attempt to address the root cause, which in this case is the advantage of perverse incentives that are driving more new fund offerings. This is significant, viewers, because despite experts suggesting investors to take the diversified route, thematic funds have continued to show strong inflow coupled by consistent launches of new fund offerings.
There is a proliferation of thematic schemes. So I think the data just speaks for itself. Whenever we as a regulator look at something like this, we ask ourselves, what is the root cause of this? Okay, मतलब आप डॉक्टर के पास जाओ, बुखार है, ठीक है, बुखार है वो तो दिख रहा है, लेकिन क्यों है बुखार? इन्फेक्शन है, ये है, वो है, क्या है, कुछ ब्लड टेस्ट कराना पड़ता है टू फिगर आउट कि मलेरिया है कि बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन है कि वायरस है, तो आप दवाई उस तरीके से देंगे, है ना. सो फॉर अस, our assessment was that one of the factors contributing to proliferation of thematic schemes, because it was the only place where there was no cap, was an arbitrage between normal schemes and NFOs. Okay, and that arbitrage took many forms. And therefore there was a incentive, which was a bit of a perverse incentive, to launch more and more NFOs. In the entire ecosystem, this incentive was willy-nilly there. So we addressed the root cause of that problem. There's no point in saying, let's put a cap on thematic.
Right, and now we have my colleague Alex Matthew to explain us the context of the thematic flow in the mutual fund industry and what the SEBI plans to do with it going forward. Alex, over to you.
Understand why this is taking place. To understand that, you will have to understand what total expense ratio is. A total expense ratio is the cost that you bear when you invest in a mutual fund scheme. Now, the rules state that the mutual fund has to reduce the total expense ratio, which is described as a percentage of the net asset value, which is essentially the per unit cost of a mutual fund scheme. It has to reduce this as the assets under management go up. There is a grade in which this goes up. Let's pull that table up just so that you can understand how this works. On the first 500 crore, that is, if a scheme is launched today and in the new fund offer, 500 crore or less than 500 crore is collected, if you are one of those investors, you will pay a maximum of 2.25%. If it goes up to 750 crore, then that total expense ratio, the maximum that can be charged by the mutual fund scheme, goes down to 2%. And there's a graded reduction over the course of the increase in the assets under management till we go to 40,000 crore, beyond 40,000 crore, and then upwards of 50,000 crore. When it reaches upwards of 50,000 crore, and let's go to the next slide, and one more after that, about 1% is the amount that you would pay, right? So why is it important? Every new scheme that is offered, the mutual fund is able to charge a higher rate for the scheme. The distributor that is selling that to you gets a larger amount of money, and what happens is that they are incentivized to sell this to you.
Right, and benchmarks stumbled as the Sensex and Nifty were weighed down by auto stocks. The Sensex was down by 424 points and Nifty down by 117 points. The indices were down for the week, with the Sensex slipping nearly 1%. Neera joins in with a detailed market roundup of the day.
Well, it was a weak end to the weekly proceedings, and we didn't quite welcome the weekend with some buoyancy as we were used to on Wednesday and Thursday. So Friday was a mixed, bad day actually, to be honest. Mid caps and small caps too corrected, but the extent of the losses in the select large caps were by far the most. Mid cap index 1.1% lower, small caps not so bad, but still lower in trade. But look at what happened to the Nifty 50, and autos bore the brunt. M&M, Tata Motors, even Maruti wasn't looking quite the strongest stock, if you will. M&M was down 6%, and well, the whole EV story and the promise out there, but might meet stiff competition if indeed we see the likes of Tesla and BYD and some of the others really get stronghold into the Indian markets due to a policy shift that the government may be contemplating. So that's part one. There is also weakness that we saw around some of the select IT names, if you will, today. The IT index didn't quite have the great day, particularly the mid-cap end, but the large caps too had stocks like Wipro correcting in trade today. What actually did well rather was some of the metal names. So Hindalco, Tata Steel, etc. had a good move. Coal India was up in the green. A bit of a defensive bent, if you see, to the markets today. The broader end of the spectrum, and let's get the BSE 500 winners and losers up on the screen. And there was a distinct flavor of IT getting a bit of a stick. So M&M on the BSE 500 as well was the top loser, but then you had a Cyient which was weak, you had a Persistent which was weak, you had KPIT Tech which was weak. Piramal Pharma, Spark, Biocon also showed how pharmaceuticals today had took a stick. Laurus Labs was down about 2.5% as well. On the gaining side, gains for Godrej Industries, some specific brokerage-led calls in JSW Energy, which Morgan Stanley said was a good call. Bikaji, after days and days of getting hit up in trade. L&T Tech was again a call by Macquarie. Macquarie put out a note and said that they are upgrading the stock to a buy. Arcane Chemicals had about a 7% uptick as well, which was probably not bad. But effectively, a lot of stocks seeing some brutal connection all through the last few days, found respite on Wednesday and Thursday, only to be upset or spoiled really the momentum on Friday. The question only is, now that we've ended below 22,800, does it spell near-term issues for the market? Well, I think time will tell. Next week would be an interesting one. It's a truncated week, but one which will probably have a lot of headlines from the global pieces as well as from local news flow.
Thanks for wrapping the market for us, Neeraj. Now, when markets experience an earnings slowdown, investors should not expect a significant bounce back. This is what Purinyu Veliat of Equity Intelligence had to say about the small and mid-cap markets in the past week. There has been a sharp correction, with most small and mid-cap stocks declining by 60 to 70%. Listen into what the expert had to say earlier today.
Now, in the last few months, they have started correcting, and in the recent weeks, there was a very sharp correction. And afterwards, you can see most of these small and mid caps have gone down by 30, 40, 50, and some of them 60 and 70%. So in general, it has done, but still, the small and mid cap segment is at a higher P than the normalized price earning multiples. And along with that, when we have earnings slowdown and weakness in some pockets of the economy, so I think we cannot just expect the market to bounce back and go up in a big way, especially from the small and mid caps.
McDonald's India is eyeing more from its coffee, with plans to expand the McCafe brand aggressively in the north and eastern part of India. My colleague Sessa spoke with Anant Agarwal, Vice Chairman at McDonald's India, North and East, about their expansion plans. Listen in.
So coffee has been a very fast-growing product in India. More and more millennials, Gen Zs, they are consuming coffee, but affordability has been a challenge. If you look at the competition, most of them start their cappuccinos and lattes between 250 to a 350 rupee price point. So that is the reason we truly wish to expand McCafe, because our aim is to provide the best quality espresso-based coffee at a very affordable price. So really want to democratize coffee. So as you see, a cappuccino starts at a 99 rupee price point, which would be one of the cheapest in the market today.
All right. In terms of store economics, can you just help us understand a little bit on how coffee business is more profitable than burgers and fries? If you can just help us understand with the help of numbers.
So I won't be giving exact numbers, but just as a ballpark, beverage business is always a little more profitable than food. So the gross margins in beverage, say coffee, will be higher. So it will be a little bit more profitable, but for us, we are giving it at a very economical price. It's 99, so it is not as high as the competition would be having, but it's still good.
Now on to an update on the New India Cooperative Bank scam case. The main accused, Hitesh Mehta, Dharmesh and Abhimanyu, have been arrested in connection with the ongoing cases and have been sent to police custody until the 28th of February. Abhimanyu, the former CEO of the bank, was apprehended by the Economic Offences Wing yesterday. Now, Mumbai's first land-based cable-stayed bridge on Ray Road has been constructed at a cost of 266 crore rupees and is set to open soon, spanning 385 meters in length. This 6-lane bridge aims to enhance connectivity between Baikula East, Mahul Road and the Eastern Freeway. My colleague Sujata joins us with the ground coverage of the newly built bridge. Let's take a look.
Mumbai's infrastructure landscape is set to witness a significant enhancement where the first cable-style bridge in one of its kind in Mumbai's railroad is finally ready, and also we see that after more than 3 years of hard work, the 6-lane bridge constructed at a cost of 266 crores. It spans 385 meters and features a central pylon system where cables are anchored to a spine girder, as you can see in the visuals, ensuring structural stability and aesthetic appeal that Mumbai is often known for. And the bridge, which connects Baikala East, Mahul Road and the Eastern Freeway, has been conceptualized to streamline the Mumbai traffic as well as in the key areas. If you see on this particular bridge that we are standing, it is the bridge that is soon going to be inaugurated. On the left exit, it gives you an exit towards the Sivri connectivity, whereas on the right you can easily take an exit to the CST station, to the CST area, and while on the opposite, these areas can take you to the Mazgaon or Baikala, wherever you wish to travel. And henceforth it is being told that this bridge is going to not only enhance but also streamline Mumbai's traffic.
The Ministry of External Affairs said the information put out by the US administration regarding USA activities and funding is deeply troubling. The statement comes a day after US President Donald Trump's fresh allegation that American aid funds were being used to interfere in India's electoral process and that the funds were being used to elect someone else. Let's listen in.
We have seen information that has been put out by the US administration regarding certain USAID activities and funding. These are obviously very deeply troubling. This has led to concerns about foreign interference in India's internal affairs. Relevant departments and agencies are looking into this matter. It would be premature to make a public comment at this stage.
And now, as you heard that in our previous story, we saw that the MEA responded to Trump's allegations, and it has been a contention between the two countries. We're discussing that, and onto an update on the same story. Tensions between the US and Ukraine persist even after Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky met with US President Trump's special envoy in Kyiv on Thursday. Now, this comes a day after a public feud between the Ukrainian and American leaders threatened to derail diplomatic efforts towards peace talk between the two countries. Now, while the meeting with Keith Kellogg, the special envoy to Ukraine and Russia, was meant to discuss paths to ending the war, any progress made on the meeting remains unclear. Because remember, Mr. Trump labeled Mr. Zelensky a dictator, and the Ukrainian president accused him of echoing Russian propaganda. And now we have my colleague Mohammad Ghazali. Ghazali, this is a significant statement coming in as these claims and Trump's fresh comment yesterday saying the funds were for a new leader. Can you give us some more details, and what are you picking up on the matter?
See, Donald Trump has said this twice in the last 1 week, that how these funds were meant to for the voter turnout in India, but he actually said that it was a kickback scheme. Now, kickback scheme is something we always hear it in defense deals, or it certainly denotes that if you pay someone, you're also getting a part of a commission from the same amount. So Donald Trump is perhaps hinting in his comments, which he made twice in the last 1 week, that perhaps USAID agencies were involved in influencing the elections, but they were also, the primary objective of this money was to ensure that somebody else gets elected into the parliament, or somebody else gets into running the government in India, primarily hinting that the elections in which Prime Minister Modi won the elections and BJP or NDA government won the elections, perhaps Donald Trump was hinting that US aid agencies wanted somebody else to lead the government in India. And later, in the recent comments, he said that perhaps it's a kickback scheme. Perhaps it means that somebody who was paying, or US aid agencies were paying somebody, and they wanted wanted some more benefits out of it. In a nutshell, this has created a kind of political slugfest that how U.S. agencies or foreign interference in Indian poll system has been an issue of debate. Both Congress and BJP have been leveling allegations against each other. But today, at the press briefing, the External Affairs Ministry has said that U.S. aid agencies have been working with different ministries. And all the ministries in the government are now gathering data and information that what kind of work these agencies were doing, whether there were any funds allocated from either side, either from the Indian government or from the U.S. aid agencies. And after that, a proper report or any proper statement can be made, said the spokesperson of the External Affairs Ministry. So as of now, things are not very clear whether the funds which are meant for India had already been released or were about to be released, because just 5 days back, the Department of Government of Efficiency, a new department in U.S. under Trump's administration, had listed out a series of U.S. aid funds which are meant for different countries, one for India, other for Bangladesh, and different other countries across the globe. After that tweet, this entire controversy had broken out. Yet the issue is not clear whether these funds had already released, whether these funds are given to someone in India or yet to be released in the new administration.
Ali, thank you so much for bringing us that perspective, and we will definitely keep an eye on how this issue affects the political landscape of India. However, that's all the time we had on this edition of Profit 360, viewers, but do stay tuned to NDTV Profit for more news and updates.
Very warm welcome to you all for this NDTV Profit Conclave, which is themed on Viksit Bharat.
A life which is both taking care of your material needs and taking care of your altruistic needs. That will be the true definition of Viksit Bharat.
In my view, we are already out of that slowdown.
For every anlom, you have to have vilom. You can't just keep doing up and up in the breathing also. You have to come down. So the correction and healthy correction is a very, very integral part of the market.
The private capital expenditure, from where I sit, I see that private capital expenditure is happening.
Any tariff coming on Indian goods will be passed on to American consumers, and Indian companies will not be affected.
We feel fairly good about the fact that we can compete with various folks.
Actually, instead of Viksit Bharat, we should call it Re-Viksit Bharat.
भाषण सुना, उसके बाद मेरा पहला एक्रोनिम निकाला मैंने, वो था RRR, रिस्पॉन्सिबल, रिफॉर्मिस्ट, और मैंने कहा रिवॉल्यूशनरी। हाउ डिड यू अराइव एट दिस नंबर ऑफ 12 लाख रुपीस?
हमें लगता है टैक्स पेयर उस लेवल नंबर से टैक्स भर रहा है, क्या उनको हम कुछ कर सकते हैं?
प्राइवेट सेक्टर कैपेक्स अभी तक वो इन्वेस्ट क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं, जबकि आपका इकोनॉमिक सर्वे ही बताता है कि वो कैश पाइल पे बैठे हुए हैं।
अगर कंजम्पशन बढ़ता है और उसके तहत लगता है कि ग्रेटर इन्वेस्टमेंट का पॉसिबिलिटी है, वो भी अच्छा ट्रिगर हो सकता है।
AI बहुत तेज़ी से आ रहा है, तो जॉब के चैलेंजेस होंगे, स्किल के चैलेंज पहले से हैं, तो जो ट्रांजिशन पीरियड का स्ट्रगल है, नौकरी मुझे अभी चाहिए।
पूरे साल का एक्सपोजर दिलाने के लिए हम इंटर्नशिप प्रोग्राम ले आए, और इसके साथ साथ इस बजट में भी ट्रेनिंग फॉर AI इसके लिए सेंटर्स बनाए हैं।
This entire special package and measures are kind of focused on AI skilling and how to sort of facilitate the AI centers which is existing at this point of time.
Now a center of excellence in artificial intelligence for education.
will be set up with a total outlay of 500 crores.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What's the picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profits Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers. Know Your Company at 11:30 a.m. Monday through Friday, only on NDTV Profit.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Here. Thank you all so much for making it. I look forward to this conversation because it's something we keep talking about. So let me put this in context. Welcome all of you, and welcome all of you over here listening in. Today we are diving into a topic that's shaping our future, artificial intelligence in India. With the country's tech scene exploding, we ask, what does the future hold for AI here? From Bengaluru's burgeoning startups to government initiatives like Digital India, AI is not just on the horizon, it's already transforming sectors from healthcare to agriculture. But what about the challenges? Will India lead the AI revolution, or will we face hurdles in privacy, in job displacement, and in the ethical use of artificial intelligence? Now, experts predict that AI could boost our GDP by billions. But the question remains, how will we manage the ethical implications and ensure inclusivity? Will our education system rise to train the needed talent? And crucially, can we craft policies that balance innovation with responsibility? Join us as we explore these exciting but, I dare say, daunting questions about India's AI journey. We've got super panelists, real experts on this. Puneet Chandok, President, Microsoft India and South Asia. Thanks, Puneet, very much for being with us. Manu Chopra, co-founder and CEO, Cardia AI. Dr. Pratyush Kumar, co-founder of Sarvam AI. And Ronnie Screwvala, familiar face, somebody we've all grown up with. Co-founder and chairperson of Upgrad. Thank you, Ronnie, very much for being with us. So, I could talk about policy, we could talk about ethics, we could talk about jobs, we will. But I think for a larger audience, the question which everybody wants to know is that how is AI going to look like for us as users, let's say 5 years down the road? It's evolving so fast. So let me ask all of you that question. Would you like to start, Puneet?
AI in the next few years will be a guardian angel. He'll be a coach, he'll be a companion to all of us. He'll have a lot of intelligence, he'll have a lot of empathy, he'll have a lot of agency. I think it'll make all of us a lot more efficient and effective at what we do.
Empathy. So how smart is that? Because if you're getting into a very exciting theme already. Empathy.
I think technology, for the sake of, technology, of course, matters, but what matters is how technology feels, right? And I think where these agents and where this AI is headed is a lot more personality, a lot more context on who you are. And I genuinely believe in the next 5 years, it'll be Puneet plus Puneet's AI. So if somebody hires me, if I'm on LinkedIn as an example, I'll say it's Puneet plus Puneet's AI. It'll be you plus your AI.
All right.
And I think that's the world we're getting into.
Ronnie? 5 years from now.
I mean, if intelligence means artificial intelligence, it has to be a 2 plus 2 is equal to 22. And I think that's what it will be, because it's going to be a combination of both. And I think for all of us, we need to take it that it's going to be in that manner, rather than actually looking at it as going to be a threat. I think today everyone's looking at it much more from a threatening perspective. And again, as my favorite saying goes, overall we need to take this on as more as an evolution, more than an sort of an apocalyptic event where we'll always keep dreading it. And if you differentiate between the two, I think it's going to evolve. I think 5-year statements today will be almost impossible. We'll need to be better than astrologers to actually talk about where that takes it.
So, Manu, the reason I thought I'd start this conversation is because I'm hooked on to Grok. No advertising contract, not yet at least, but I use it because it generates pictures for me. And so I decided to, I'm Bengali, parochial one at that. So I asked it to draw Newmarket in the 1920s, in the rainfall, with women street vendors, with a few old cars. And it came up with something absolutely incredible. And it gave me 3 or 4 options. I regenerated and it gave me something better. It suggested Twilight, so I clicked Twilight, and it had it in Twilight as well, in the rain. Now this is absolutely incredible, which is why I asked the question, in 5 years from now, what more can AI do for us?
I mean, it's a very, it's not a good, thing to be making predictions right now. Because I'll be like, 5 years from now, this will happen, and it happens tomorrow.
But is that the problem? Is it moving so fast now that we really can't look 5 years ahead?
I think, look, one of my favorite quotes about technology, if we step back, is from Kintaro Toyama. He says, technology is an excellent amplifier of human intent and capacity.
Yeah.
I think of AI the way Puneet is talking about it in terms of amplifying our intents and our capacities, right? So we've been playing around with deep research. It's absolutely phenomenal, right? The kind of things it can do, it accelerates the pace at which my team works. It allows us to do so much more for our communities. And I really believe, look, AI technologies that we're building, the kind of work that Pratyush is doing at Sarvam, this is really important because it just accelerates earning and learning opportunities for not just people like us on the stage, but for low-income communities all across the country, right? And I think it's our responsibility to make sure AI productivity is equitable, right? But I think the fact that it'll dramatically accelerate productivity, in my mind, is a given, right?
Ronnie had a point?
I just want to add that I think one thing for sure in 5 years is we won't be as wowed as we are right now. And the reason I say that is because right now I think it's all tough. I come from the storytelling world in my previous avatar, and I think the wow with which you explained that I fed it in and gave me these 3 fascinating stories, I think a lot of that will evolve. It'll become part of us. And I think that's something if we harness. So one of the things I definitely think in 5 years is we won't be that wowed with it in a good way, not in a bad way.
Right. But I am wowed for the moment. I mean, it can design music for me. I can ask it, I can describe a certain type of music that I want, and it can do it for me. A few years back, I would say even a few months back, if we wanted information, the phrase we would use is, let me Google it. That's already obsolete. You no longer Google it necessarily. You can grok it, you can chat GPT it, you can DeepSeek it, whatever it is. Again, in your mind, 5 years from now, what's exciting which is coming up?
So one thing that is surprising about this area is that the surprises don't stop.
Right.
So I do not know if 5 years later you won't be wowed, right? And as a practitioner of the technology, so the technology is still very early in the evolution of any technology, just few years into it, right? What you are echoing is a sentiment of the user, but as a builder, there don't appear clear limitations on why this does not improve further, right? That's a scary and exciting thought simultaneously, right? But for me, what is most interesting is what Manu said, which is that this technology becomes a common denominator for everybody, right? Because at the bottom line, some of us are creating images, some of us are doing deep research, right, and improving productivity. But the 1.4 billion Indians being able to access healthcare, education, whenever they needed advice, mental advice even, I think making it common denominator, just like, for example, today the per capita consumption of data, India is a leader. The per capita consumption of generative AI, I would see India being the leader in 5 years, and it's because this technology will make everybody so much more capable and enjoy a better quality of life.
Let me ask one more basic question before we get into specifics. Johnny, this one is to you. Education. If there's AI, then, the way you and I studied in school and in college and did our research, you don't need to do that anymore, right? I mean, that's the pessimist in me speaking. Because I can quite easily tell you, and this is the truth. I promise you, this is the truth. I've got about 8 or 9 questions. I looked up AI and I got them. right? How do you learn if you've got a machine doing those functions for you?
No, I think that's a little too far-fetched. I think it's also then destructive. So I think it's going to have to be coupled. You're looking there and you're looking at this as an add-on, but there is a lot of the other part of the day where you're doing a lot of your own logical self. So I think you just need to look at it from that perspective. I think we need conviction, actually. Right now you're talking about everything else from a caution point of view. True. If you just look at it with conviction, I don't think you're going to displace the schooling system. If you see what's happened in the last 50, 60, 70 years and overall in learning, there's a certain base camp that you would have to necessarily go to. So I'm not a subscriber where this is going to be completely replacive and the next generation, of course, every generation is getting wired in a different way in which they consume things. But some things I think will remain constant. I think the coupling of it rather than the decoupling is what's going to be important.
Puneet, the other, of course, common question is jobs. And I think it's, again, in a sense, a worry that people have addressed and have moved on. Will it take jobs is perhaps no longer the relevant question. It's how do jobs change given the reality of AI? And that has to do with skilling. So we'll keep skilling out for the moment, but to the basic fear that people have, AI is around, I'm going to get canned. How would you respond?
I think just sticking to Ronnie's framework of kind of just thinking about the positives of this technology, right? To me, I think this has the ability to reduce the cord between knowledge and agency. And let me explain to you, right, which is, my favorite example is you go to any hospital in this country, the first year doctors are out of work, the 20th year doctors are out of time. Because everybody wants to go to the 20th year doctor. Same for teachers, same for lawyers, same for technologists. Yeah. And if you can create a co-pilot, if you can create an AI agent which brings as much information, as much expertise, as much judgment to the first year doctor and the first year teacher and the first year lawyer, imagine the work they can do. So it reduces the floor, it raises the ceiling, right? I think specifically on jobs, it'll both create new jobs and it'll change the nature of our jobs. And on creating new jobs, nobody better than Manu to talk about this because he's genuinely creating these jobs. I can talk about it, but he should talk about it. And then I think changing the nature of jobs. Right? I think we're used to defining jobs as a title. Like, you're the chief editor of this thing, I'm the CEO of this organization. All our jobs are a collection of tasks. And I think this is time for us to reflect on, going back to your piece around saying these questions and the research work and the grunt work, that can be taken away. Now that frees you up to do so much more, right? So I think that to me is exciting. New jobs, changing the nature of jobs, and then cutting the cord between knowledge and agency, and especially for a country like India, getting people started much faster, much better to do a lot more work and a lot more amplification, as Manu said.
Manu, I'm coming to you on that, but in terms of specifics, I do know that specifically we are working on agriculture and AI already presently in the country. We are looking at AI being able to decipher fairly complicated medical reports and then advise people. We are looking at AI interpreting legal documents and then advising people as well. How is this fundamentally changing our lives in India right now?
Look, for our communities, information asymmetry is still a problem. Right, and it goes back to what everyone is talking about, right? Like access to this information, that is still a challenge, right? We thought that internet would change that, right? It made a huge difference. It certainly changed all of our lives, right? But with access to these technologies, to this information in your language, through voice, the kind of work that so many people on the stage are doing, that's really, really critical, right? To answer your, in general question, I think, look, the reason we need to approach this with optimism is important. I almost think of it as like, it's hard to demonstrate this with a mic, but I'm going to try. Think of this as like the kind of work that humans can do, right? That's all the work we've done in the past. A certain subset of this is the work that AI can do for us, right? Which is the work like coming up with questions. But because that's happened, now the kind of work we can do with AI is so much larger, right? One of my favorite thinkers on this topic is Eric Bryn-Jacobson from Stanford, who says that, if ancient Greeks automated all the labor known to them, there would be no work, but then there would be no NDTV Profit, there would be no vaccines, there would be no, several other things that we did because of the technologies that were created, right? So, given that these basic needs will be taken care of, right? Access to healthcare, access to information is taken care of. The question very quickly becomes for us is how do we make sure the vast majority of our communities are able to use these tools to become more productive? Right. To use them to actually make more money, to learn more stuff, to go ahead in their lives, to thrive, right? To just have full, complete, holistic lives. And I think we are very excited about the kind of new jobs AI is creating. These jobs pay really well. We're able to train people in our communities to do these jobs, right? So I'm optimistic in general. It requires work. It requires us to create almost a just transition between what people were doing earlier and the new kind of stuff that we have to do. But I think of the opportunities here across ending information asymmetry, connecting people to what they need this like very quickly. I was flying into Bombay this morning and I saw these incredible mountains I'd never seen before. I took a photo and the first thing that I did was ask my GPT, what is this? And it told me exactly the wildlife sanctuary it is, right? Like these are very basic things, but they truly enable information discovery. And I really like what Puneet said about reducing the gap between knowledge and agency.
Note to self, I'll do that next time. You had a point, Ronnie?